When people talk about Denzel Curry, they often talk about his energy or his lyrics, but the real backbone of his music has always been his production. Today I'm going to make 3 beats inspired by the 3 different eras of his career, breaking down the production techniques that define each one. And stick around to the end because I'm going to show you a mastering trick you can use to get that authentic Memphis sound and make the drums hit hard. Starting out, Denzel Curry was part of the collective Raider Clan. Their music was heavily inspired by 90s Memphis rap. That sound is known for being very dark and gritty and was a huge foundation for what modern trap drums sound like today.
On my left, Raiders on my right, Denzel in the middle, revving me, I
To start our beat, we had to create our Memphis sample. Instead of just using a sample online, I wanted to make something from scratch. So I started out by laying down this ambient sound from Analog Lab, as well as this percussion loop from the Metamorphosis kit. Even though we'll be adding our own drums later, it's very important that you use a percussion loop as it gives it that authentic sampled vibe and it gives it a pretty cool background texture later on in the beat. Now for our melody, if we go back to Denzel's older music, there's not much melody in the songs. It's really just what I could describe as ambient dissonance.
Glock, little nigga on his grind. All I need is a mask and a nothing what gives you the idea that we are bluffing. Steadily grind.
To create dissonant melodies like those, you want to follow these notes in your scale: the 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. And pretty much just playing anything in that combination of notes is always going to sound dark. Then for some variation, I laid down one more melody. Finally, to put it all together, we need some vocals. So I went into the Metamorphosis kit, grabbed one of the over 400 vocal chops and threw it in there, as well as some vinyl noise as well, just to give it that old school, gritty, imperfect sound. Now our melody doesn't quite sound as old school and gritty as Denzel Curry's old music, and that's because his music wasn't purposefully like that. Back in the day, they didn't have the highest quality of sounds, and that's what gave it that type of mix. But nowadays, if you're trying to recreate something like that, you want to intentionally mess up your melodies and sounds to give it a mix like that. So first off, almost every sound has an EQ that looks like this, cutting out a bunch of the highs and a bunch of the lows, leaving that mid space, giving it a telephone effect. On the main melody, I added this bit crusher. This is a free plugin. And the last tip to give it a real, authentic, old school sound is to put your sounds closer to mono. Back in the day, I noticed a lot of the sounds, especially if you go farther back, even before trap, to like the 70s, 80s, the sounds were very mono and not stereo. But in order to give it some depth, they would pan some of the sounds left and right. So that's what I did here. Is these melodies are pretty close, not fully in mono, and then I just pan some of the sounds left and right. Now for the drums. For these old school Memphis style tracks, the drums are usually quite simple, but some of Denzel Curry songs are a bit more complicated. And one of my favorite examples are the drums on his breakout hit, Ultimate. So Ultimate has a few key characteristics: super bouncy hats with a lot of rolls in them, hard-hitting kicks, and deep but distorted 808s. So on my beat, I did exactly that. I started with a hat and snare from the Metamorphosis kit and laid down some drum midis, which are also in the Metamorphosis kit. And let's take a closer look at this snare pattern. One of the most iconic parts of Memphis beats are that at the end of every 4th or 8th bar, there's always some type of 16th note snare roll. And that's exactly what I did on the 4th bar and this longer pattern in the 7th onto the 8th bar. From there, the kicks and 808s were a matter of just following the notes from the melodies as well as following the rhythms from the drums you already had. Notice the 808 pattern isn't exactly like the kick pattern. There's a couple parts in here, especially at the ends of bars, where I added a few extra notes just for even more energy. Final part of the drums was just this cowbell. It's iconic for Memphis as well. In terms of mixing, most of these drum sounds don't have any effects on them at all, or they might have a slight EQ like this, taking out the highs. That's because when I made the Metamorphosis kit, all the sounds were already mixed, but overall, you want to do similar stuff to the melody where you're giving it that dark, gritty sound with EQs, bit crushers, saturation, stuff like that. So finally, on our master channel, classic soft clipper, just so everything's hitting. This effector, which is very, very slight, but it will slightly distort everything a little bit, again, giving it that gritty old school feeling. And then finally just slightly taking out the highs again to give it that classic old school sound. So once I had that all together, our first of 3 beats sound like this. This style of production was huge for Denzel Curry's older music, but his sound would evolve a lot from here. By the time Imperial released, Denzel Curry's music started moving in a way different direction. The production became way more polished, there was different sounds in there, a lot more melodic, and you could hear a lot of different influences in the music.
Grows in value, and rightfully so, I gotta have it. I see you know what I'ma need some help. I just wanna feel myself.
So for our second beat, I wanted to make something that was a bit more melodic and on the boom bap side of things. So I started with these ambient keys and laid down this emotional chord progression. So this progression is just simply an F minor ninth going down to the C sharp major 7th with an inverted note, over to this G sharp major 7th, but all this is up an octave, down to this C, I believe this is a dominant 7th. I'm so bad with chord names, I just click the buttons in and it works. But this chord right here, this has these 3, which would be diminished, and that gives it a bit of a darker, uneasy feeling compared to if it was all perfectly in key. Other than that, I just sprinkled these little higher octaves of the same chord, and then I have a little melody which transitions right here. From there, I just layered the same chord progression on a few new sounds just so it sounds bigger. Finally, I just added a bass line and a couple instances of arcade for some top line melodies. For the drums, I just kept this simple, found some random boom bap loop from a kit and laid it down. When it comes to your boom bap drums, make sure that the rhythm of the drums, specifically the kicks, match the melodies that you've already made. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You could either start your beat with your drums and build the melody around it, or you could even chop up the drum loop into a different rhythm which matches your melody. This one naturally already fit. As you can see, there's a kick which hits right here, which is where the chords hit, and then this kick hits right here where the chord changes. So this loop just happened to work with the stuff I already had. But if you listen to a song like Take It Back, the drums hit much harder than the ones in my beat. So to get my drums to hit like that, I added this saturation plugin and turned it on pretty heavily. I'll play it before and after. And now this is what our second out of 3 beats sound like. And now before we get into this third and final beat, I just wanted to quickly talk about my Metamorphosis kit. This is going to be super quick. Metamorphosis is a multi-kit which I designed specifically for Memphis influenced beats, which the first beat we covered and the third beat we're about to cover is heavily inspired by Memphis. It's perfect for these Denzel Curry types of beats. And this isn't just a normal drum kit. This thing has drums, loops, drum midis, percussion loops, and more. So it's a full multi-kit for the price of a normal drum kit. I'll just let you guys know, for anybody who does get this kit, you're going to get a huge discount on my next Memphis kit. So definitely stay tuned for that. But for watching this video, if you use code Denzel at checkout, you get 25% off Metamorphosis. Now let's get into the third and final beat. For this third and final era, Denzel Curry has definitely gone back to his Memphis roots, but it has more of a modern twist to it.
Niggas in my hood, we call it sour.
The main difference between the older Memphis style tracks and the more modern tracks are the mixing and the melodies. As we mentioned before in the second beat, the mixing is a lot brighter now, it's more polished and put together, but the melodies sound a bit more like modern trap melodies in this beat. Starting out for our beat, I wanted some type of trumpet sample like you heard on Black Flag Freestyle. Next, I added a simple top line similar to what you could hear on Phony.
And all that beef that was in the streets on computers, now they action.
Then I added 2 more counter melodies for a little bit of variation. For the drums, again, I just started with sounds and midis from the Metamorphosis kit. And on this track, I used 2 different 808s. One a little bit similar to the first beat we did, and then one a bit more of that synthy Memphis sound. In terms of the mix, most of the drums don't have any effects, maybe just slight telephone EQs like before. But as promised in the beginning, I will show you my favorite master for Memphis beats. So first off, I add a soft clipper, that's essential. Then I do this EQ, very slight, take out the lows, just like that, like 20 hertz and below. And then normally I'll be a bit more over here with it, but I just wanted to keep it pretty open for this one, a little bit more of a modern feel. Then the plugin that really makes the drums hit is OTT. If you watch the Suicide Boys tutorial, you know about this, but this pretty much just compresses everything. I turn the depth way down because when you have it up here, it's just way too much. But this is the sweet spot, about like 20 to 30%. It gives the right amount of compression so things are hitting hard, but it's not overly done. And then we have this EQ for the intro. So then finally I added a percussion loop from the kit as well as one of the Metamorphosis vocal samples. To give it a cool effect, I added these scratches from Effectrix. Now our final beat sounds like this. Hope you enjoyed this video. Remember, 25% off with the code, and I'll see you guys in the next one.